Hi, I'm Gareth Marlowe, and this is one of a set of 5 posts on the reasons why a scale-up's growth can stall. And today's reason is constraints in the back office. So what can often happen when you're experiencing success in your organisation? Either you've got some significant traction with the product, or you've just successfully closed a funding round, is that you will invest heavily in engineering and in commercial functions and sort of build out the capability that you have to execute your strategy. But one of the things that can get overlooked is back office functions. So HR, internal IT, finance, facilities, those kinds of things. Sometimes the response to scaling can be simply to throw more people at that area, but not fundamentally going back and looking at how those areas are performing and whether or not those areas have a strategy in place to deliver what the organisation actually needs. Because frankly, more of the same just ain't going to cut it. What you needed to do in order to be able to get past those initial survival stages is going to be very different from what you need to do in order to be able to scale. So symptoms of this are really, if you don't have a strategy in place, if you haven't updated your thinking since you've passed these points of inflection, you're almost certainly not going to be doing best fit things in those areas. Also, if you haven't changed the nature and the profile of the people that you have working in those areas or done some work to development, that can be another red flag. And so what that's basically saying is that we are going to do more of the same. So in order to be able to remedy this, I think you really need to start with a proper diagnosis. So go in and try and understand the ways in which those areas are holding back the organisation as it stands, or could be used to ignite growth themselves through developing infrastructure, through improving the supply of people, through improving the way that decisions are taken, for instance. And the other thing that I would suggest is to think about investing in leadership in those areas. Now, I'm going to say this because I was a COO, but I think a really great response to this situation is to appoint a COO, to appoint a person who is solely accountable for the delivery of the organisation. So they will be doing 2 things. One is that they will be running those back office functions themselves. They'll be managing the heads of HR, IT, facilities, finance. But the other thing that they will be doing is thinking about how the organisation is glued together, how it's taking decisions, how it's communicating, how it's setting its strategy, those kinds of factors. Because those things themselves need to be revisited as you scale. What worked at one stage when you're a single office and you're only 10 or 15 people will not work when you're 2 offices and you're 60 people. So unless this is somebody's full-time job, there's a chance that it just kind of gets neglected because it's priority 5 on somebody else's list of responsibilities. Make it a single person's job and make sure that you're investing in leadership in those areas. And then the other thing that you can do is, again, just to look at the way those areas are operating in connection with the rest of the business. So if I take hiring, your view of HR in the earlier stages might have been that the people that you've got working on those areas are to transact your hiring process. To kind of process applications, maybe do some initial sifting, set up interviews and so on and so forth. More strategic approach to those kind of areas is going to involve 2 things. One is being more strategic, doing things like building an employer brand, extending the reach of the organisation into its target areas. But the other thing that those kind of back office functions are going to be doing, like HR, in that process is partnering with the business, becoming more embedded into the business and using the rest of the business to drive their work. So, again, if we're thinking about hiring, we might be using software engineers to go out and go to meetups and just to build the organisation, the awareness of the organisation and what it's doing as an employer. So all of these things require new thinking, and they require a new relationship with the organisation. You're not simply outsourcing those functions, so these kind of back office teams. You're developing those functions in conjunction, in partnership with the front office and back office teams. So today's reason as a limitation to scale for scale-ups can be that you're constrained by the back office, and my recommendation in those areas is, 1 is understand and go and set a new strategy, and 2, make it somebody's job, make it somebody's primary accountability to ensure that stuff is fit, well and healthy for scale. That's it for today. I'm Gareth, and I will see you in the next video.